Recently during the Game Changers Championship, Team SMG accidentally picked a 4 duelist comp, thinking it was just a rehearsal and not the actual match.
What made you go ahead such a risky move?
To be honest, we thought it was a ping check, like a rehearsal. Because it was our mistake, we accepted it and then we just followed through and then we adapted.
So this game must have been a disaster, right? I mean, they literally have a comp that is rare even for ranked. Well, it was a disaster, but not for Team SMG, because not only did SMG win, they absolutely destroyed EG in a 13-3 stomp on Lotus. So we're going to use this awesome opportunity to talk about why team comps don't matter as much as you think, and why comps are just a tool for you to execute your map theory. Without a good understanding of how the map works, it doesn't really matter what agents you end up playing. You're going to have a tough time. But if you do have a theory of how to play the map and a dedicated plan behind it, you can make almost any comp work, just like SMG did in this game. At a glance, you'd think that Team SMG have 4 duelists with no capabilities to play the game in any normal way, but their comp works better than you think. They have Neon to stun close corridors like Breach, they have Raze, who is already the best duelist, and finally Reyna and Phoenix can act somewhat like fighting initiators. I'm going to start with some rounds which showcase why Team SMG had a good fundamental understanding of the map and how they pulled off such a strong defensive half despite their duelist comp on the most attack-sided map in the game. Team SMG had no choice but to be aggressive with their comp, but this is exactly what you need to defend Lotus anyway. Winning Lotus defense revolves around maintaining a good balance of control between A main and C mound, with creative mix-ups through B. We can see that SMG immediately understood the assignment by aggressively pushing out of A in pistol round, while 2 players are set up to absorb the incoming C pressure. This is exactly what we saw the best teams in the world like Loud and PaperX do on this map. By bouncing control and information between these two sides, defenders can slowly smother attackers and take control. We saw this happen in multiple rounds where Team SMG successfully herded EG into positions with no space to play from. Their first goal was to make sure that EG were scared of A main. After establishing A main control over multiple rounds, Team SMG decides to invert the setup so A is absorbing pressure while the strong side pushes up B and C aggressively. This is a great mix-up call, and when done correctly, can leave opponents completely confused. For example, EG tried a Hail Mary B rush in the following round, but because Team SMG swapped to control mound, they can open the door and created a crossfire into B main, completely stopping EG in their tracks. And the control that Team SMG had on defense is made even more apparent with some data insights. Again, all my data segments are possible because of Augment.gg's analytics platform. Check them out in the description below. This is a heat map of Team SMG's player positions on defense. You can see how deep their control of A main really comes through in this heat map, as well as some rounds where they swap control to mound instead. This heat map also shows how aggressively SMG are rotating by using A-Link and even flanking often enough for us to be able to see the trails on this heat map. We'll revisit this later when we compare it to EG's defense. So Team SMG had a great defensive plan which didn't really rely on having specific agents, but this game was also a result of EG's shortcomings as well. On the flip side, EG were actually running the meta comp, but didn't have a great understanding of how to play the map. This is the opening round of the map again, from EG's perspective on attack. One thing to note is how EG's Raze throws their boombot into A main as an info gathering tool, but never intended to contest it anyway. In response to defenders pushing A main, the standard reaction is for attackers to take control of mound, and we can see that EG start to skydog into mound. But this is where things diverge a bit from what's expected. Here's an example of Loud executing the standard attacker side response against PaperX earlier this year at Champions. PaperX aggressively takes control of A main, so Loud positions to respond by taking mound control. They use utility to clear it out and move 4 players into it. What they do next is very important for this setup to work. Loud are looking to apply a ton of pressure onto this side of the map, and they do it in a multitude of ways. First, they open the revolving door to peek into B main and threaten a rotate into B. Paired with the Killjoy turret watching from this side, Loud can now confirm that all of B main is clear, and they make sure to spam the box to ensure no one is hiding behind it. Now Loud have full control of B main, and PaperX are forced to watch for a B execute. You can see how it keeps PaperX's first rotator worried about B, instead of finishing their rotate into C. Secondly, Loud are actually pressuring C very hard and not just holding control of Mound. They throw this Omen smoke which blocks top site and allows them to cross into back site. Aspas throws his boombot here, which gives Loud a potential timing to walk through. And compared to EG's usage, which was thrown at the start of the round with no one taking space with it, it's a more active use of the boombot. Loud have control of this entire lane, and it puts a ton of pressure on the site players, who are now seriously thinking Loud might execute C, but could still rotate to B. Finally, Loud goes completely silent after this barrage of pressure, and PaperX are left confused. PaperX needed info, so Forsaken jump peeks, but Loud were just waiting for this moment and completely trapped Forsaken with utility to open up the opportunity for the actual execute. Now let's compare what we just saw to what EG does on attack. Remember that Team SMG have pushed up A main, and EG have started to work into Mound using the Skydog. Once the Skydog completely clears all of Mound, no one on EG even moves into Mound to take control of it. Compared to Loud's response, EG have no control or threat of B main, and Team SMG are not being pressured on C in any way. Instead, they decide to force their way back into A main, which is exactly what Team SMG want them to do. EG's decision is a high risk and low reward decision, which is what you want to avoid as much as possible. Team SMG are completely prepared for this fight, and EG could have lost the round right away. Even if EG win this fight, it doesn't guarantee them a plant. A main is still pretty far from any site, meaning they'll need to take another fight before planting the bomb. EG end up winning this fight, and it creates a lurk timing. But Team SMG could have easily kept an anchor on C or pushed Mound for info. The main issue for EG is that they're clearing space and sometimes even moving players into that space, but are not taking enough risks across their default to pose a real threat to Team SMG. In their first gun round, EG work up B main and even use the Skydog to clear, but don't walk close enough into the choke to find the trip and kill it. This is a telltale sign that you aren't really working deep enough into the map to threaten defenders, and we can more clearly see EG's timid control with some data. This heat map shows all EG player locations throughout every round in their entire attack half, and we can see huge dead spots towards B and C, which was what we were talking about in those last examples. For comparison, let me bring up the heat map of Team SMG's defensive positions again, and we can really see who controlled the vast majority of the map during this half. EG barely worked into B or C compared to their many attempts on A. But wait, didn't we just see Team SMG being quite aggressive towards A? Just like we saw in Pistol Round, EG eventually tried to force their way through A when their ideas into B and C didn't work. But as we broke down, EG lacked an understanding of how to control B and C, and forcing fights into A main is exactly what Team SMG wanted. But we still have a couple rounds from the second half to look at. EG unfortunately kept that mindset of timid control when going into the second half of this game, but Lotus defense revolves a lot around early aggression like we talked about earlier. On Pistol Round, EG let Team SMG get all the control they want in A main, which is extremely different from how Team SMG were playing it. And we very quickly see the consequences of this when SMG instantly kills both players on site with lightning fast timings. The exact same thing happens again, even after a timeout, and SMG walk all over A to convert it into match point again. Take a look at this comparison between EG's positions on defense and SMG's positions on defense. You can easily see that EG doesn't control much of the map at all, and you can make out that EG's rotation paths are very passive through spawn, whereas SMG rotated much more aggressively through link or even by flanking. Of course, EG only had a couple rounds to even play defense on this map, so there isn't a lot of data, but it should still give a good indication of what went down. In the last round of this game, we finally see EG push into A main to take control and set up a trap, but unfortunately this last round just illustrates how much better of a team SMG was that day. Watch how they take mound control in response to the pressure from EG in A main. They actually run up to the choke and threaten an execute, which forces the Viper Orb up. Then they completely cut noise and leave to work up to B, while Cypher and Raze attempt to keep EG on A for just a second longer. Note how SMG use their boombot now, and not at the beginning of the round, because SMG are ready to do something off of it. Keeping those players on A for just a couple more seconds gave SMG the perfect timing to take B, and it's just poetic to me that a 4 duelist comp can still showcase such great strategical play. Team SMG earned their victory and created a great moment in Valorant history for all of us to watch. My prediction is that Team SMG's coach is going to make everyone pick their normal agents during ping checks now. Let me know what you guys thought about Team SMG's comp, and I hope you enjoyed the shorter video this week. As always, thanks for watching.